All right, so thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our workshop is part of Sheikh Abdullah Salim Cultural Center aim to support parents and students in their shift to online education, to online learning. We are trying to show you how this type of learning could be efficient and of high quality, even if it is happening online. We have tonight with us, we are very glad to welcome Lauren Bowers. Ms. Lauren Bowers is an education consultant. She's also a K-12 instructional coach. She has worked with teachers all over the world to support them in science education and to support them also in moving to online learning. She is also the person who started the collaborative for the NISA, Near East South Asia Council of Overseas Schools. She started the Science Collaborative and she was the head of that collaborative, which allowed so many teachers in the region to collaborate and come up with professional development that is very useful for all of them. So we are very happy to welcome you, Lauren, with us. And tonight she will be the one presenting this workshop. Lauren, yours.
All right, so I saw as you were talking, Nada, thank you for that introduction. Every time you say things like that, I'm like, are you talking about me? But if you're just now joining us, if you could just go ahead and change your name to something that you would prefer us to call you by, or if you registered, the name that you registered with. It's going to be pretty laid back. It's a small group of us today. Right now we have 14. We might have some more pop in. So feel free to unmute, ask questions, whatever you need to do. And I will also be working, I'm moving to Kuwait. Nada and I have been, we kind of missed each other. I was working at ASK before, the American School of Kuwait, prior to moving to Dubai, and I was in Dubai for 4 years. And now I'm moving back to Kuwait, and I'm going to be working at the American School of Kuwait again. So Nada and I have kind of been in contact over the last 4 years as she's worked really hard to develop the science program at the high school level as it's transitioned into these new inquiry-based science standards. My role there next year is going to be supporting science K-12, and then I will also be teaching some physics courses next year. So I'm super excited about that. So let's go ahead and get started. And Nada already did a great job about logistics and introductions. Just one more thing that you guys, it seems like you guys have been on Zoom calls before. You're muted, which is really my one request was going to be, we're going to talk about a little bit today about distractions, and that's one of the distractions we have to minimize for students in online learning, is just making sure that the microphones are muted when they're not speaking to the larger group. If you get kicked out of the meeting, just click on the link again and you can join us, pick right back up. The only thing that might be an issue is you might get thrown into a different breakout room than you were before. Just pop back into the main session, and if you were really feeling it with your other breakout room, we can put you back in the breakout room. So when you get into one, remember what number you were in so that we can put you back into that if we have any technical difficulties. All right, so I like to start with why. With everything that I do, I like to start with why. It grounds me in making sure that my work is meaningful to myself, just as we want the work for students to be meaningful. So this whole remote learning, and I want to be very, very mindful that I'm calling it remote learning and not online learning. I'm sure a lot of us have taken online courses before where it's, post discussions, write a paper, do this assignment. This is not what we're doing. We're doing remote learning. We're taking what we do in our classroom and we're adjusting it and improvising it, or not improvising, we're adapting to make the learning experience as high quality as possible online. And I think that a lot of things can happen remotely online that can't happen in the classroom, and we have to play to those strengths. So in order to do that, I've been working all summer to work with teachers that are looking to improve their practice. And there's also been a passion around the idea of minimizing the cognitive load for students. So that's my why. So what I'd like you to do in the chat box, and Ed team, I'd also love you to go ahead and put your why in the chat box as well. So just type it in there. So while I'm sharing, if you can find the chat box, it might be under the more option. So you can just open that up, and then you can just type in the text box. What is your why? Why are you here with us today? And don't feel like you need to spend time reading the responses either. I'll start reading them out as they come in. All right, so Nada, I believe that's you. Support my kids with online learning. Ola, nice to see you. To understand how my kids will learn. I'd like to see a new way to implement lessons from traditional to online. Great. So as a parent, I think we have parents here with us today. I want you to think in the back of your mind, just not at the forefront, just at the back of your mind through this entire workshop, think about your student going through this process. So if they were in a class and the teacher was asking them to type in the chat box, if you notice, I spent a lot of time waiting for responses to come in. Wait time is really important. It's something that teachers, I struggle with as a teacher, and it's a lot more awkward in the online setting because it's quiet and you don't know if people are typing on the other end. Zalfa, you said you're a mother of 3 boys. Your elder is 8 and my twins are 6. I would like to get more information about online learning. My own experience was stressful since I also work. That is such a real, it's such a reality for a lot of us right now. So one of the things we'll talk about, we'll kind of address that a little bit. It will never be perfect. I don't want to sugarcoat that. Make it easier for students to understand online lessons. That's awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up. If you're still typing, please don't stop typing. You can go ahead and put it in the chat box, and then that'll pop a notification for people to read that.
Also, Alan mentioned something in the chat.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I skipped over that. Sorry about that, Alan. We are here because we want to be better prepared for new challenge in online learning for our kids. Awesome. Thank you for investing in your kids' education in that way. So I want to start us off with an agenda. And so your teachers, I don't know if you've noticed, but at the beginning I had a screen open and there was a task for the students or for you to do when you came in, and that was to rename yourself. I'm not saying that this is what to expect with all of the teachers across all of Kuwait, but it is a strategy that's pretty common across the board as we've been working with Zoom, is to start with that. And then the next thing I would say is have some sort of check-in in the chat box, and then now we're on to the agenda. So we just did the introduction and why. I'm going to spend just a minute, literally 5 minutes, on what the cognitive research says. And then we'll dive into how you can support independence and what that looks like at every grade level. And then I'm going to model a science lesson for you, and then we'll have some time for reflection and Q&A. And Ola, you also added that you may do online sessions in the future, so you want to experience this first and know the best way to teach or train kids online. That's great. So I'm actually going to switch over. So what I have here is I have my iPad set up, and I'm actually not in my usual location. So I'm set up in some random little spot with all of this. So if we have any technical difficulties, I totally apologize, but I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to share a second screen. And that second screen is going to be my iPad. And Yara, I can see you. So can you give me a thumbs up if you can see a red square with some icons? Awesome, thank you. So to talk about cognitive load theory, I'm gonna save you from all the big words because I don't want to increase your cognitive load. But I have 3 icons here just to kind of help you remember what these 3 icons mean. So cognitive load essentially says that for short-term learning, kids, or people in general, not just kids, but our focus is kids here, have a limited capacity that they can hold at one time. And they've kind of essentially broken this down into 3 categories. One of them is the learning that has to happen because the task you're asking them to do. So let's say you're teaching kids how to graph a line. There is mandatory learning that has to happen with that. And that's what we're going to call the blue. So it's the magnifying glass. It is what is required to be learned. You can't get rid of that. Like, that has to happen. The red, if you can guess, is all of the extra stuff that's in our way in order to learn. So right now there's a little icon popping up for iTunes that tells me to like do something. It's distracting me. That is going to be the red. It's called extraneous because it's extra stuff that are distractions. The green is that deeper learning, and that is what you want to really maximize in order for it to move into long-term learning. So I'm going to do a little bit of a demo here. So I went and got some M&Ms. If I touch them enough today, maybe I won't eat them afterwards. So we're going to move them around a lot. So we have green M&Ms to represent your what you really want to focus on, which is moving that into that deep learning, the long-term memory. And then you have the red, which is all those extra distractions. And then you have the blue, which is like the mandatory stuff. So let's say that this task is pretty challenging, okay? Maybe it's learning how to log into your Zoom stuff at the beginning of the year, and that is taking up so much space in your brain. So I'm gonna use this square down here to represent the load of your child's brain or your brain. And we're gonna say, no matter what, this is gonna take up this much space. Okay, so as you can imagine, this is the only amount of space I have to work with. And as a teacher, I'm thinking about this as how am I reducing the amount of red that's in my students' brains, and how am I maximizing this? So I'm going to name these things. I'm going to say, I have my phone sitting next to me. I'm in a new space and I'm not used to this space. I'm worried about the internet connection right now. I didn't sleep well last night because there was a massive storm. I am a little bit worried about the COVID pandemic, and so that's taking up space in my brain. You know, so I could keep adding these in, and I'm naming them as I add them in. So for your students, it might be they're working at the kitchen table and there's a lot of noise around them. So as you can see, there's not a lot of space left for this, this deep learning to happen. So again, what I want to say as a teacher standpoint is I want to maximize this. So I'm going to take away, I'm going to reduce, you know, the new learning space for me. I'm going to make sure that I always learn in the same space. I'm going to make sure that my internet connection is stable so I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to make sure that I go to bed on time so that I'm not tired when I wake up. And then that is going to add extra space in for that extra learning to happen, okay? So I want you to use this mental model, and as a parent, I want you to think of what are those red things specific to my household, or, you know, in general, what are those red things that are happening? Every single one of you is navigating a new normal right now of your students trying to learn at home or your children trying to learn at home. And that is it's going to be a red one until we can figure this out. So what I'm going to ask you to do is in the chat box, I want you to name it. What are the reds? What are the things taking up extra space? For teenagers, it might be their cell phone, you know? So what are those things that are taking up extra space for your kids' brains? And again, I'm just going to go ahead and read out those chat box things. Gaming, absolutely. I'm going to say YouTube, good. I'm going to say siblings. I could see that being not a bad thing, but an extreme. Obsessed as other kids with other electronics, absolutely. Good. Mobile phone. Social media, sleep schedule, gaming, Nintendo, Fortnite. Yep, learning might be boring. TV in the same room, snacks. Good, keep them coming. iPad for my 8-year-old, yep, totally get that. So what I want you to start thinking about is if you've named those red M&Ms here and you've named them, I want you to start thinking about what you can do for your child to minimize that. as much as possible. Friends on WhatsApp, absolutely. So it's different for everybody, and there's some things that are the same for everybody. So just keep that in mind as you move forward, that the more we can reduce it, and like I said, teachers think about this too. If my student has to click 4 times to get what they're doing, to get to the place where they're learning, that's too much. I'm asking them to do too much, and I'm overloading their red, and I'm minimizing their green, and that's not okay. So just kind of think about that as a parent as well. So I'm going to go back to the presentation now. Okay, sorry. There we go. Okay, you should see what we just talked about, and then I also did the chat box. So I'm going to show you 2 things. We're moving into the supporting learner independence, and these are 2 very basic things, and by no means am I claiming to be an expert on this stuff, but at least maybe it might plant some seeds to have you thinking about some things. So the 2 ways that I'm just going to focus on just for today is the working space. So get your kids involved in designating their working space or designing their working space that they're going to be working in. And I know this is a lot more difficult when you have multiple children and trying to set those up. But what I've seen parents do is set up like a home base for all of their kids, and then they can move to a different space to do their quiet learning or their Zoom meetings or whatever. But having that common space where they're all together might be a lot easier if you don't have the space available. And then the other thing, kids crave routine as much as we don't think they do, because they just want to play all the time. They crave it. So using a planner to support structure, to support the structure to their day, so that they can anticipate what's next. And they just do that every day or every week or every morning to plan for that. So this is a friend's child. I went to high school with this person, and she posted this on Facebook, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so perfect for what I'm doing. So this is her daughter showing what she's doing in her, or it shows her daughter explaining her space. Yara, I see you again. So if you can't hear, give me a thumbs down. If you can hear, give me a thumbs up. Whoops.
Let me show you my workspace. These are my journals, math and science. You need a clock to stay on track. You need something to keep your things organized, like your glue stick and pens and scissors. You can have a little friend to keep you company and some snacks in case you get hungry. Some boulders, just pull it out from here. And a bottle in case you get thirsty. Have some headphones if you'll be boiling around or just a big noise. And especially need a computer. Bye.
So as you can see, like and you know, I didn't even have a conversation with my friend about like reducing extraneous load or anything, but it's clean, it's organized, that she knows where her journals are for math and science. She has a clock that tells her what time it is. I don't know if you were able to understand her, but she said we have headphones because my brothers are noisy. So just kind of designating a space that it's the learning space in your house is a great way to kind of support or promote that structure. The other thing I want to talk about is producing or using something that this would be maybe a representation for something at like maybe upper elementary. So having a space that, and this would change depending on what your school is doing, but a place where every morning they go and they say, what day is it? It's Sunday, it's August, whatever. And I'm feeling excited about today, or I'm tired, or I'm not looking forward to school, but just it's a little check-in for you as parents to know how they're doing. Another kind of routine thing where they can identify, okay, it's breakfast time, it's lunchtime, it's morning snack. And then maybe they're learning all these things every day, or maybe it's just one thing you know, again, it depends on your school's schedule. And then it's always important that a lot of you guys said phones and iPads and YouTube and Fortnite and all these things. So I put on here specifically off-screen fun ideas to just promote the kids to think about things that they can do away from screens. And then just always setting a little bit of a goal for the next day. This is one that I would say is maybe for middle school, or even, it could even be like lower high school if you wanted, maybe a 9th grader. And again, it kind of depends on how many classes you have a day, but I would say four classes, 4 different subjects in one day is probably maximizing the cognitive load for a student. So just, again, having a place where they can kind of organize. You could also just get a planner or something like that. And then this is something maybe for a senior or a junior. What are my synchronous? So the difference between synchronous is asynchronous is synchronous is just face-to-face. We're doing everything at the same time. Asynchronous is things that they're doing on their own. It's a more personalized learning experience. And so just giving them a place to write, this is what I'm doing live today, this is what I'm doing on my own today, and this is what I have to do before tomorrow, and here are some notes for a week. And then I did a little bit of research, and this is probably the best one that I found, but some age-appropriate things. And again, every student is different, and I don't want to say if your child is not doing this, then they're not where they should be, because it's different for every kid. But a general, I am not a fan of teaching to the average kid. It's not a good practice, but to generalize things, you know, I heard somebody has an 8-year-old in the group, so they might be able to help you take care of like picking up the toys and stuff outside. They could help you fold the clothes, help make a grocery list. So if you could transfer those into things that they could do in the classroom or things they should be doing on their own, you probably shouldn't have to sit them down at their computer and log them into the Zoom meetings every single time. They should be able, as long as they have a link that their teachers have provided, they should be able to do that on their own at that age. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do our first breakout room, but before you go, I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna be doing in that breakout room. So you're gonna be using Jamboard, and this is what your Jamboard is gonna look like, and I'm gonna show you how to navigate that in just a minute. So Jamboard is just a place where you can interactively work together in a space. So first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna scroll to the breakout room that your number is. So when it says join breakout room, it's gonna say join breakout room number something, and you're gonna find that room. And you're gonna wanna make sure that we're focusing on the fostering independence one, because there's gonna be 2 breakouts or 2 boards for your breakout room. And then you're gonna have a conversation about how do you think these strategies could support learning from home for your child? Like, what is one little thing that you could do that's actually gonna help your child? And then I know that I covered a very small iota of the things that you're gonna be tackling as a parent at home with your child learning. So what are those obstacles? I think this is good to know for me as well as teachers, and I would love to share your concerns or your anxiety with other teachers as well. But what are the other obstacles? And then we'll hear some ideas from the different groups in sharing out. Again, I want you to think about your child if they're going through this and getting these instructions, and now they're going to go click on the Jamboard link that's in the workshop planner. It would not be a workshop planner, but it would be something similar for kids. You're going to have about 8 minutes or so. I think I'm on time. I don't have the workshop planner open, as I said that you guys should. So let me just go to Jamboard really quickly and show you what that's going to look like. So I'm going to, as soon as it loads, maybe, there we go. So when you first get into the Jamboard, hopefully it doesn't go to, it might actually go to the 17, I'm not sure. Now my computer's being very slow. but this is, you're gonna find the one, so this is for breakout room number 4, for example. You're gonna find the one by just toggling through these slides here. And you're only gonna wanna find the one that looks like this T-chart, and it has the breakout room number that you have. Take a minute to introduce yourselves to each other as well. You'll be in the same breakout room, and you'll have education team people in each of those breakout rooms. All right, so let's go ahead and go into those breakout rooms. Alan, I hear you talking about like that cognitive shift for kids going from Jamboard to Zoom, and that is going to be a lot for students at the beginning, but as they get used to it, it'll just be like how they flip through applications on their phones. They'll get a lot better at it, and teachers have to keep that in mind too. The first couple of weeks of school are literally, can everybody log into Zoom? Everybody practice turning your microphone on and introducing it. You know, it's teachers are going to be working around that, those trainings as well, for sure. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, because even for me now is to understand how from one room in Zoom, we jump to another room and we come back. That part is, I still understand.
Yeah, the screen goes away. All right. So yeah, thank you, Nada, for handling that on the chat. I was also muted for a second, so that might have been the issue. So I was able to go into breakout room 1 and 2. So I want to hear from breakout room number 3. And I didn't say this prior to you guys going in, but if there is someone that could volunteer to share out with us, that one, and then we're going to move into the next part, and then breakout rooms number 1 and 2 will share their thinking with the next part. So anyone from breakout room number 3 want to jump in and share your thinking? What was your conversation, or what were some highlights of your conversation?
Hi, this is the education team member. I'm Dalia. We were in room 3. We were having a little bit of a technical issue, but I think we put out some great ideas on the first slide about how to think about these strategies and how they're going to support the child learning from home. So we got some good ideas.
Also, the participants were preferring to use the chat, so maybe now they might use the chat to explain as well.
Oh, got it. Great. Yeah, that's another thing as teachers and as parents we need to be mindful of, is that some people are going to be super comfortable with talking and turning their videos on, and other people are not going to be as comfortable. And ideally, we get to a point where everybody is comfortable with having their videos on and talking and everything, but it takes time. So just be mindful of that as well, that's something that your teachers are going to be trying to encourage for your kids. And your teachers will love if you reach out to them and just say, my child's a little shy on the screen, please be mindful of that, and they'll work with them on that. Yeah, I love this idea of VR. I actually downloaded the Google app, and everywhere I travel now, I take a 3D picture, and so I can always go back to that place and travel. So the VR idea is super cool. I haven't really dove into it with my classes, but I'm really eager to learn about that. Yeah, so sticking to a schedule, life can get in the way. Absolutely. And then you just kind of know where you are as a family, how much of a schedule you can stick to, and how much you'll need to be a little bit more flexible with. Okay, for the sake of time, thank you for sharing that. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and move into the next part, which is our model lesson. So what I do as a science teacher is I always start with something that's going to get the kids' attention. And I don't give any answers. Like, I don't want to be the bearer of all knowledge or the keeper of all knowledge. So I allow the students to kind of discover that on their own. So I'm going to switch again over to my iPad, and I'm gonna look like I'm leaving you, but I'm actually just gonna go to my freezer to get 2 pieces of ice. So give me just 1 minute. There we go. You should see a piece of metal and a piece of wood, and I'll be right back. So before I start this, what I want you to do is, if you have something that is metal around you, so I have around me, I have my iPad stand, I want you to feel that metal right now. So put your hand on the metal. Nada, since you're unmuted, what does the metal feel like?
It feels cold and soft and lustrous. I can see it lustrous.
Okay. Temperature-wise, what would you tell me?
It's cold.
Cold or hot? Okay.
Cold.
All right, so we have metal, and we know this. If you get into a hot car, obviously it's gonna be hot, but we're in our air conditioning apartments right now. Now find a piece of wood, something that's wooden. Hopefully that's, I was thinking about this. This might be a little bit more difficult in Kuwait. But if you have wood in your house, maybe your door. Not your chair is wood, I think.
Yeah, it is, and my desk also.
Okay. So again, tell me, how does that feel in comparison to the metal?
It's definitely less cold.
Okay, so I have a piece of metal here that you can see. This is actually a piece of welding. My brother took a welding class in high school, and my parents were, I just ran over there and grabbed some from them. And then this is a piece of wood. So the same thing, I could feel this, and if I was in my lab, I would get an infrared thermometer out so that the kids could see the temperature of each of these, okay? So now I'm gonna put equal sized ice cubes on each of these. And I just want you, as you're watching this, I want you to write your observations down in the chat. Not questions, just what do you notice? So we said metal tends to feel colder, wood tends to feel a little bit less cold than the metal. And then as you guys are putting those observations in the chat, I will start reading them out. The ice on metal is melting. Okay, yeah, so if I move this, just to make sure that like the 2D kind of look here isn't messing anything up. Ice on metal melting, good. Metal transfers heat better than the wood. The ice on the metal is melting faster. The ice melts faster on the metal than the wood. Good, so we're seeing the same observations. The water in wood is being absorbed by the wood, okay? So if I pick this up and look, you might say that that's being absorbed by that, good. It slides even more, yeah, so let me kind of move, I don't even know if I can move it. There we go, we'll move it around a little bit more there. The water in the wood is being absorbed. I think I read that one. So this is a way, oops, sorry, it's blurry. My iPad autofocuses. This is a way to get kids engaged in the learning. They touch the wood and the metal at their house, even though they're not here with me to touch the actual metal and wood. They can make observations. I might even ask, wood has porosity and permeability, metal does not. All right, Alan, pulling out the big letter or the big words. So I might even, just for the sake of time, I'm not gonna do this, but I might even ask them, is there anything you want me to do to this setup? Since you don't have it set up at home, what is something that you would want me to do? And sometimes kids think I'm tricking them, and the ice isn't melting because I'm using a special piece of ice. So I would put it over here and show them what happens there. So these are some things using the chat box for observations. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now just for the record. It is still melting. I didn't trick you with the ice. So I'm gonna go back to my presentation, and what I'm gonna ask you to do, give me 1 second, is I am going to find my screen that I'm sharing here. I'm gonna play this video on loop. And so you should be able to see, hopefully, let me just, sometimes you guys go away on Zoom and I can't see you. There we go. So what I'm gonna have you do is, you should be able to see an option where you can annotate. So what I mean by this is you should be able to click, not a help me out, it's under view options.
View options, yes, annotate.
Yeah. It looks different on my screen, but if you go to view options, you should be able to annotate, click on annotate, and it should bring up an option for you to like type. So I would choose the text option, and I want you to write questions. What questions do you have? So I might say, why is the metal rigid? Or why is the metal bumpy? Might be something that students say. Like, is that having something to do with it? So go ahead and use your annotating option to be able to write these questions in. Again, this is taking up cognitive load the first time we do this. So as a teacher, I'm aware of that, and I'm taking some time just to allow it to, for you guys to navigate that. Why is the ice on the wood not melting? The option is up here on full screen. Thank you. Thank you for helping us out there. I'll keep that up here. Why is the ice in the wood not melting? Why is the ice melt faster on the metal than the wood? Good, why did it melt on the metal? Good. So these are all great questions, and I would actually do this for quite a while with kids. I want like 20, 30 questions that are here, and then we can start sorting them. So I would say, these two questions are the same. This is essentially asking the same question. All of these questions are essentially the same question. So I would want more questions than that as a teacher. So this would take more time, but just for the sake of like, we're just kind of experiencing this as a parent right now, I'm gonna stop this, and we're actually gonna go to a breakout room. So I'm gonna clear your, all the drawings here, and I'm gonna go to the next slide. And now you're gonna go into another breakout room, okay? In that breakout room, you are going to be doing, you're going to be looking at this. Nada, do you mind hitting the call button? Okay, so first you're going to find your breakout room number. Again, you're going to be with the same people. You're going to make sure you're on the correct activity, so you're not on the T chart anymore. You're going to be on one that looks like this. You're going to have a discussion about why you think this is happening. Why is it melting faster on the metal than the wood? You're going to draw it, and I've started your drawing out by offering you a picture of a piece of wood, a picture of a slab of metal, and 2 ice cubes. So those are your components. You can drag those around on the screen so that you can put them, and then I want your picture to explain, okay? So try not to use words as much as possible. Try to draw, and then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to write on a sticky note why you think this is happening, okay? So you're going to have a picture explaining your thinking, and you're going to have words that explain your thinking, okay? And I'm going to give you about 10 minutes in the breakout room to do this. We're a little bit behind time, but that's okay. I want you to experience this again. This is where your kids are starting to think about the science. This is the first time we've done any content. And so I want you to think about the struggles that your kids might have in that. All right, Nada, we are ready for breakout rooms. All right, I think we're all back. So I'm gonna move super fast through this, but again, I'm gonna tell you my teacher hat. I'm gonna put my teacher hat on right now and tell you that at the end of this, after the groups share out, that would be the end of class number 1. We would see the demo, they'd go to their breakout rooms, they'd draw what they think is happening, they'd share out, and we'd be done. So as you can see, like the actual live sessions should be incredibly engaging. They should be talking with other kids, because if they can do it by themselves, or they can watch me talk, they can do it offline. They can do it by themselves. They don't need me. They don't need their peers. The only thing they should be doing during synchronous time is things that they need to do with their peers. So I'm going to start by asking group 2, breakout room number 2, can you share in, let's say, 1 minute or less, share your thinking?
I'll get this, Yara. So what we did was we first decided to have everybody voice what they think is happening, and we narrowed it down to 2 things, and then we started drawing. As you can see, it's not as pretty as it should be, and that's our fault, but we wanted to basically display the 2 things we discussed, which are the heat transfer and the density. So the heat transfer will be, why is it melting faster on the metal than the wood? And for the density, we saw the water fall right off the metal rather than the wood, and that was we said that was that's what they are, by the way, molecules, or the density, that squares. That metal is a lot more dense than wood, so wood would absorb some water, while metal, it would slide right off.
Got it. So I'm seeing a couple of words here. This is a teacher demo here. I'm seeing a couple of words here that I'd like us to kind of maybe put to the side, and we'll talk about it later. And I'm seeing heat transfer, conductor, and absorb. So those 3 words, I want to have a little bit more conversation around that. And then I liked what you said about, by the way, this is us representing density. Maybe we could put a label out here that says high density, low density, or something that might allow us to see that. Thanks for sharing. So group number 1, why don't you go ahead and have a spokesperson explain this for us?
I think Alan is the best one to talk about this.
All right, Alan, you're being thrown into the ring.
Okay, thank you.
Alan, you're our scientist.
Thank you. No, well, we were discussing about why the ice is melt faster in the metal than in the wood. After the discussion, we conclude that the main reason is because of the density of the metal. And an atomic level, the atoms in the wood are the atoms in the woods are separated. So when the heat reach the wood, need more time and more energy to be able to transfer the heat to the next atoms. While in the metal, because the atoms are in touch, are very, very close, less energy is less energy is in the metal, less energy is needed, maybe here, less energy is needed for to transfer the heat from one atom to the another one. So in the metal, the equilibrium of the system between the metal, the ice, and the environment is going to be faster in equilibrium, while in the wood, the system, ice, wood, and the environment is going to be less quickly in equilibrium, because the heat that is transferred from the environment to the wood is going to be a slower transfer to the ice. So this is more or less the explanation.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. So some words that I heard Alan say was he defined these components of a system. So that's something that I would like to talk more about, as well as like, how did you define that as the system? I would also, the next question I would ask all groups, and these are just rhetorical questions, you don't have to answer them just for the sake of time. But the next step I would do with my kids in my classes is I would say, Alan, that's a great idea. And I like that theory that you're putting in your head. How are you going to test it? And so Alan could look at this and he could see the metal, he can see the wood, and he can see the ice. And if his theory is that the particles are closer together and can absorb more energy and transfer it to the other particles in the metal, maybe there's another material that he wants to test this theory on, and he needs to have some research that's done on the you know, whatever that property is that he's defining there of those materials, and then he's going to test it. And then if he gets the results that he expects, he's probably on the right track, okay? If we're looking at density of materials and, you know, maybe I'm going to use styrofoam instead, and we could see the differences in that. So that would lead to an investigation that Alan's doing one that kind of fits to his thinking, and then group 3 and group 2 are doing ones that fit to their thinking, and we're all doing different things. And we're all doing different investigations, and then we would come back and argue our evidence that we came. It's the same thing scientists are doing, and it's the same way that we should be teaching kids science. So that's my spiel on science, inquiry science education. And we are so far behind, but or not so far, we're 7 minutes behind. But I'm going to continue moving. I know we can probably continue having a conversation on that alone. We did the share out. So one thing I want to kind of stop, or I want to end with a pep talk, and then we'll open it up for questions if you guys have it, and I'll stick around for as long as you want if you have questions for me. So this is what, these images come from a video called The Learning Pit. And I don't actually know if I linked the video, but I can do that afterwards on the workshop agenda. And it essentially says, allow kids to struggle through it. So what you experienced right now is the very first step of a unit, and you are cognitively struggling through, why do I think this is happening? So that is a good thing. It's a good thing that kids are struggling through it. Now there's a difference between struggle and just pure frustration. And it's our jobs as teachers, and it's your jobs as parents to see, are they productively struggling, or are they frustrated and struggling? One is very toxic and one is very, very important. So don't build bridges. As teachers, we don't want to build bridges for our kids, because then they're only going to learn surface level things. The other image that I captured from this video is this. You have stage 1 surface level knowledge. When we're teaching courses that are so content rich and driven by content, we only get to that surface level knowledge because they never get a chance to struggle, because they're not doing anything and they're not thinking in a certain way. They're just memorizing steps. So we want to make sure that we're teaching more than just content. We're teaching them how to struggle as well. And then this is kind of what I was saying before, that cognitive wobble is what I mean by like them struggling cognitively. Fosters deep learning and confidence. Struggle without direction leads to frustration and low self-esteem. It's a team effort. So kids are pulling each other out. Alan, I heard you kind of explaining things to your teammates. And when your computer froze, they were like, oh no, where were you? So this is Alan up here at the top, helping his teammates pull out. But Alan, I would encourage you not to give all the answers, but to also ask questions to get them to come up with those themselves. So it's a team effort. It's not me, the teacher, helping these kids pull out of the pit. It's kids helping kids pull out of the pit as well. And I hope that those communities are built within classrooms. So in the chat box, using today's learning, type 1 commitment that you're going to make to your child for your child's learning this fall. And this is going to be kind of our checkout before we start our Q&A. I like that question. How can you tell the difference between struggle and frustration? Believe me, it's very, very clear. So one of the things that I'll go up to a group of kids and they'll be struggling, and I'll ask a question, and then they can respond with either questions or answers. When they just look and say, I have no idea what you're asking about, that's when you step in, right? When they can't answer the questions that you're asking and you're starting with very low basic levels, that's when you want to step in and help them with that struggle. All right, so go ahead and in the chat box, type it in. What's your commitment to your kids' learning based on what you've learned today? Setting up a learning space, great. Even as a teacher, that's been really important for me this summer, is just setting up my space. And now I'm in a temporary space, and you can ask Nada, I was like, I don't know, my space is not here. I'm really struggling. So it's good for teachers to have that as well. Ask kids more questions about their learning, as parents as well, right? What did you learn today? And then when they say, oh, I don't know, dig deeper. leave them hanging for a while. Yeah, until the next class. Because now what I've done is I've just engaged the kids, hopefully, and they're ready, they're wanting to sign in the next time, right? Like that desire to sign in so that we can share our thinking. Enjoy learning and be respectful. Love it. And I'll keep this open for maybe about 30 more seconds. Minimize distractions. Try to start from now to train them to use less electronics and be on a schedule. Frustration is when interaction drops. Yes, thank you, Zaina. Encourage student-led learning. Yeah. And students that have been not taught this way will think that something's wrong. Why are you not teaching me content? Why are you not lecturing? So it takes some time to train. You can't just throw a kid in the deep end and expect them to know how to swim. You got to start with the shallow water first. And that's what we have to do as teachers and parents as well. All right. Any last commitments we're making? All right. Well, if that is it, then I'll open it up for questions. And I think we have about 2 minutes left, like with the workshop agenda, but I'm happy to stay. It's a lot. I'm in Texas right now, so it's a lot earlier here. It's only 1:15 in the afternoon. So it's easy for me to stay on later. And you can either unmute and speak, or you can write it in the chat box, either one, whatever you're most comfortable with.
Lauren, we had some questions from working parents on how would they be able to monitor their kids' learning when they are in their own, like in the offices, away from home.
Yeah, so if it's super young kids, that is really, really difficult, and I don't have a right answer for it. But one of the things that I would start doing now before school starts in session is get them on a schedule. And as much as you can, I don't know about you, but when I'm around kids that are 4, 5, 6 years old, they can use an iPhone just as well as I can. It's really scary. They know technology. So if you set up very basic things like this is your Zoom call, this number or this link is what you're going to click to talk to your kids, or to talk to your teacher. There's simple things like that. You're never going to be able to just release them 100%. It's impossible. And I don't have an answer to that. The only answer I would have to that is for schools to open back up. And that's just not possible. It's not safe right now. So I would just start increasing the responsibility of the kid as gradually as you see fit for your child. And if anyone else wants to jump in on that, please do. Alan, as of right now, I am not planning to repeat this. I am thinking about potentially doing it for the American School of Kuwait, doing some parent evenings, or just to see even what does it look like for my child to learn science at ASK, because this is the way that we're hoping all teachers are teaching science at ASK. We have a lot of new teachers coming in as well, so it'll be a training process for all of us. When do you teach in this model concept of teaching? I think you mean by like content of this, and it's built in throughout. Like kids will get to a point, let's say they do their investigation, they come in and they share their learning, and one is like way off base. Maybe they're all off base. And then I'll say, just like scientists have to do in the middle of their research, and they're just kind of confused by their results, they have to come together as a community and share their results and learn together. And I think at this point in time, I need to step back and I need to teach this concept. So it's not, I'm stopping what you're doing to teach content. It's, we're all confused, so let's step back, and I think I could help you with this one thing. The more it could be their learning experience and you're just there to facilitate, the better. But sometimes we need to redirect them onto that path. How do I convince kids that online learning is just as real as being in school? when you ask that question, I have this mental model of the kid in the middle, the student in the middle, and the teacher and the principal and the counselor and the coaches and the parents and all these people around. And it's not just your job. It is the job of the school and the job of the teacher to provide high quality learning experiences that make the kids think that it's just as good. So don't put it all on yourself. I hope that your schools are also providing that high quality learning experience. How do you navigate a classroom when you have students of different conceptual understanding? Partner them up. And then you can only move as fast as your kids are able to move. And sometimes that means that towards the end of the year, you're kind of getting to a point where you have a lot to learn. And sometimes it's like, okay, we didn't get to this, so we're gonna have to do some direct instruction right now. But the more the kids can experience that learning experience, the better. And then I always do like small group kind of things. So if these kids are great and they're in their investigation or whatever, I'll pull away and I'll start working with kids that really need some extra help. Alan, it looks like school or the cultural center might be able to supply support at home when it is required. Is it possible? I don't know about my school being able to provide home help. I don't think they are, but maybe the cultural center, I don't know if you want to answer that, Nada?
Like we are trying to support by organizing these workshops to have like parents ask as much questions as they have, but supply support at home. You mean with the kids, supporting the kids to understand that this is actually a school?
Yeah, I kind of tutor, maybe. I'm thinking about that. Maybe some kids will need some, but because as you know, I mean, most of us will work and most of us we will be out of home, you know. So we are thinking to get a tutor or something like that.
If your school is providing the proper quality of learning, you will not be needing a tutor. That will be something that should not be required. And also if you have kids of different ages, you can ask the older one to help the younger one starting their classes at least. And yeah, it's not going to be easy with both of you out of the house. That's true.
Okay, yeah, I think, thank you.
Yeah. What other questions, or if there are no more, we can wrap it up. Just maybe Nada will wait one more.
I want to remind everyone. Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that we have in the chat a feedback form link that we placed for you. We would really appreciate it if you can fill in this form and let us know what you think about this workshop. This will help us a lot to improve our services and improve the quality of workshops we provide at the center. There is a new message, I feel. No, it's again the link.
The other thing that I wanted to just make sure that you have access to is one of the place where, I know I'm kind of speaking to the choir here. That's a phrase that Americans use. I don't know if it transfers, but you guys don't need this information because you're here. So you must have found it somewhere. But I just wanted to share the Cultural Center's Instagram page, because that's where a lot of their workshops, and if we do more workshops like this in the future, that's a good place to look for them. And then I have absolutely no reservations of you sending me an email, or the place where I do a lot of my professional learning and professional connecting is on Twitter. So that's my Twitter handle. So you are more than welcome to email me or reach out to me on Twitter. And if that is it, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Lauren. We would like to thank you for your presentation, for your effort, and for the amazing workshops you have provided us with. We really enjoyed them. I speak for myself, and I think for everyone here. We would love to see you in person and host you at the center, hopefully when you are in Kuwait soon. all participants, we would like to really thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us tonight. We enjoyed having you here and the discussions we had. It was very helpful for us. We hope this workshop was helpful for you too, to support you in moving towards online learning and high quality learning.
Thanks, Nada. It's always fun. I think every time I do a workshop, I think this is my, I don't know how many workshops I've done online. It's something that I started really early on as soon as schools closed. I think I said this in the last one, I just found random things in my house to set up a great space. And so it's something I'm super passionate about. And every time I do a workshop, I learn something new from the participants that are in it. So I thank you as well for being engaging participants that allow me to stretch my thinking as well. So thank you for that.